Q&A. I am glad to be back with you guys this week, and we are going to talk a topic that we haven't done in 2 years. And since the last time we've done it, really, I've had a lot of folks request that we do it again. So I don't know if those folks will catch it tonight, but hopefully they can catch it after the fact if that's the case. And that is planning and saving on college. We can even talk homeschooling if you'd like to. This is like my first job, really, is homeschooling 5 girls. We have homeschooled since the very beginning for those folks, and I have 2 that are officially seniors. So this is very well timed for us, as literally the last financial aid packet just came in the mail on Friday. So as we start to see what all this looks like for us, we've been living it, is how it feels. But there are a lot of ways that you can save on college, that you can be prepared long before college gets here, and save on homeschool if that's where we want to go to. I am 100% okay with any questions that are off topic too. So I know this is a really specific topic tonight, but if you have questions that are not schooling and college related, please feel free to ask away. I am glad to help any way that I can while we are on. So as we dive in, the first thing that I want to emphasize is that yes, we do not want to wait until you're dealing with juniors. We actually saw some old family friends this past week, and the dad said, "Oh, we have a junior now, so we probably need to start visiting colleges." And I had to bite my tongue so hard. It is a moment of, you have a junior who's almost a senior. It's March. Yes, you need to have been visiting some colleges because college applications open August 1st in most colleges. If they have their own application, if they're not part of the Common App, then their application could open even earlier, and they need to have this narrowed down. We also know a lot of folks who have kids that applied to like 10 colleges. That's, to me, on the crazy side. You are paying to apply to a good chunk of those colleges. And if you're that unknown as to where you want to be, that's really costly. So helping your kids to narrow down long before they are in that summer before their senior year is really going to save you some money in the long run. Now, let's talk planning, specifically ways that we could knock out some college before college even comes. And this is where I'm saying you don't want to wait until you're dealing with seniors, because your kids could have started earning college credit really as early as their freshman year in high school. Now, I will be the first to tell you, not every kid is the same. So what my 2 seniors have done is not what my freshman in high school is currently doing. Every kid learns and conquers different subjects very differently. So you do have to approach it that way. But I encourage anyone, whether you are homeschooling, whether you are in public school, that first off, you are your kid's best guidance counselor. You know them better than any other person knows them. You know what their goals are, hopefully, right? You know where their weaknesses and their strengths are too. So sitting down with your kids, no matter where they are schooling, and making sure that you agree with what they're studying, where their plan is. Because I will tell you, being a public school kid, a kid who was at a school of over 2,000 students, I saw my guidance counselor, pretty sure it was required, once every year, right as it was time for new classes to be signed up for the next year. But it didn't mean that person knew me or that they even knew what to recommend for me. They knew what my grades had been. They knew that I could maybe handle the schedule that I was saying, hey, this sounds fun and cool. But they didn't necessarily have like my future goals in mind when they made those plans. And while they may have that as their mission, they can't know that for that many students. So you as a parent, no matter where your kids are in school, it's important that you be part of this plan. So I'm actually going to show you what I did for our kids when they first got started. And if you look at this closely, it's a spreadsheet. It's a lovely Google spreadsheet. And I will share this for you guys in the comments if you're wanting it. literally, you can see I started this in 7th grade. So this wasn't 9th grade. This was mapping out how we were going to start to accomplish things, because we live in South Carolina, and in South Carolina, actually in most states, for me growing up in Florida, this was the same way. You can start to earn high school credit in 7th grade. So if your kids are already in Algebra 1, that can be a math credit in 7th grade. Why do I want to start earning high school credit in 7th grade? Because if I can start to knock out some high school requirements in 7th grade, that means I can start to knock out some college requirements in like 11th grade or even earlier. So that's really where I'm wanting you to realize that the earlier we get started thinking about this, the better we are long term. So this is literally what my seniors have done for all of their classes. Actually, with one update here. This is a version that I have for you guys. I have a much more colorful version of things where I've moved things around or changed that we kind of use personally, but I made this copy just for everyone else. They are actually taking 4 AP classes this year. So that would be the one adjustment to their 12th grade year. But for my high school seniors, they are graduating with like 59 credit hours in the bank. So to have, that's 2 years of college done. Now, do they graduate in 2 years? They could, but it could also be freeing them up to take a minor, to double major. There's a lot of things that going in with a lot of your general education requirements done is freeing you up to do those other credits on in college. So I'm not giving them this strict, you must get out of college in 2 years talk. That's nowhere on our plan. But there is one school that they are interested in, and it may be a 3-year school for them just to save a little bit more money. So let's talk in terms of this. I will stick this in the comments for you guys if you're wanting to see what that plan is. And let's talk how to get ahead on some college credits. So the easiest way to do that is with courses that you can take locally or even through your public high school. Homeschoolers can also take these courses through a lot of places. So the easiest one that a lot of folks think of is AP credit, or the first one. I won't say it's the easiest, but the first one that a lot of folks think of is AP credit. And I'm sharing with you as well another link here that is 4 ways to earn college credit early, and that's kind of what we're talking about in this. So AP credit is run by College Board. They're the same folks that are running the SAT and the PSAT, all of that is out there. So College Board runs AP. AP is a little difficult now, and they're not super simple classes. They can be tricky, and you have to pass a test at the end of the class. If you pass the test at the end of the class, then you are going to get credit for having taken that class. Now, these are not like automatic transfer credits into a university. So I will warn you, with AP, and in general, you need to pick and choose where you are going to end up going to school. So, and I'll show you in terms of all the AP, there's a ton of classes that you can take. This is just a list of every AP that is out there. There's a lot of AP classes. So your kid's high school or what you can find online for homeschoolers, not always going to be every single one of these, nor would you do that to a child, but there's a lot that they can take. But there's an important point to these AP courses before you put your kids in them is to realize they do have to pass the test at the end of the year. If you have a kid who is not an amazing test taker, this isn't really what you're going to want to do to them. You're going to want to find another way for them to earn college credit, and there are other ways. So this is just number 1, but it doesn't mean it's the only. So not a good idea for for bad test takers, because literally college credit hinges on how they do on that end of the year performance. The other thing to consider is what schools are they interested in. So for us, we toured a number of schools starting when they were sophomores, and schools are happy to have a sophomore on campus. You do not have to wait until they're older. And your first question needs to be, hey, my kids already have some college credit, or we're looking at doing dual enrollment or AP. What is your policy for incoming credit? So there are some schools that will just gladly take them. They will easily make them count for classes that were already required, no issues. There are other schools. One in South Carolina that we dealt with was Furman. Furman told my kids and me when we were there touring, hey, I'm glad you've taken AP. That shows us that you are, pushing yourself and striving to do better. But we are a 4-year university and we do not allow any courses that would help you to graduate early. Okay, well, that sounds great until you realize that it's also a university that costs $70,000 a year. And the idea of being able to afford that for 4 years, most of us can't do. So if you're going to tell me that all this college credit that we've taken is pointless, that's not really what we want to hear. And this particular university quickly gets scratched off the list. So you need to find out what schools are your students interested in, and how does that school deal with AP credit, dual enrollment credit? Do they accept these? There's a number of high achieving schools, that's what they would view themselves, that do not accept AP credit. They expect you to have taken AP or dual enrollment classes, but they do not accept the credit. So just be ready for that. At the same time, how many of those do I want to give my kid? I want to show the school that they have taken some hard classes, yes, but do I want to sign them up for 7 of those a year when they're pointless? No. All it's going to do is end up really making your kid kind of discouraged. Why in the world did I take all of my classes as the hardest possible version if they were useless to me later on? Now, there may be a school that it is worth it to them to get in the door and they feel that those APs are going to get them in the door. I still don't think 20 APs is what it's going to take to get them in the door. I think even 5 APs would have done the trick, taking just a couple a year instead of loading a kid down just to have them all get washed away in the end. So that's the big question to ask these universities before you sign your kid up for a bunch of AP classes. The next way is dual enrollment. I have mentioned that already, just in passing. Dual enrollment is going to be through local colleges, local tech schools. You'll even find a number of big colleges now offering them online to students all over the world. So you literally can sign up and take dual enrollment credit from Northwestern, from Johns Hopkins. You're going to find a lot of opportunities out there. Keep in mind, for these dual enrollment classes, when you choose to go to the big guys, the Northwesterns and the Johns Hopkins, you are going to pay an arm and a leg for those classes that were literally taught at your local tech school. So if your student is looking at going to a local public university, so in South Carolina, that would be, you're going to end up at the University of South Carolina, you're going to end up at Clemson, College of Charleston, your local public universities. You're in Georgia, the University of Georgia. In most states, and I'm not going to speak for all, but most states require those public universities to fully accept transfer credits from state tech schools. So in my area, that means that if my kid went to Midlands Tech and they took a dual enrollment course, meaning that they earned high school credit for us and they earned credit through Midlands Tech, that's what makes it dual enrollment. That has to be accepted at any public university because it was through a public tech school. So that's pretty sweet. And if that's where my kids are interested in going, why would I want to go and spend $2,000 a course to take it online through Northwestern when Clemson would have taken the Midlands Tech credit that was free? So that's one thing to consider with tech schools, is a number of states do offer dual enrollment to high schoolers at reduced, possibly free, using some lottery money and some other scholarships that they run there. In our state, 2 classes, as long as you take 2 classes at the local tech school, they're free. You still have to pay for your books and fees, but you don't have to pay tuition. Some counties in South Carolina also give completely free tuition to the tech schools as well. So could be just based on where you're living. Now, I obviously don't know specific counties in Georgia or other areas, but it is things to look into as you are hunting for ways for your kids to take these classes and spend less on them. That's the goal here, right? Yes, we could all go take dual enrollment from Northwestern at $2,000 a class, but that's not our goal. Our goal is let's work on college as affordably as possible. $2,000 a class is not affordable. Even university costs, when it comes down to it, are not going to end up that high for you. So things to consider as you are pondering how to handle these college classes. So AP, dual enrollment, there's two others actually. So you've done your AP options. Maybe you decided my kid's not a very good test taker. Dual enrollment's probably the better option for our poor test takers or our stressed test takers. So I have one of those. That is our not twin third child. Tests kind of panic her. So to put her in an AP class where it's all going to come down to this final moment, not a good idea for her, and really just setting her up to fail. Dual enrollment though, whatever grade she makes in that class is the grade that is officially on her transcript. So if you've got a good student, she's performing well in class, she's probably going to do great, or he do great in dual enrollment. It's not all coming down to this one possible test at the end of class. So a lot less stressful. So two other options though for credit that are test-based, and that is going to be placement tests. Every college does give you the opportunity to take some placement tests. Maybe you can test out of some math classes or even potentially some English, some Spanish classes if you've done a lot of a foreign language in high school. Maybe you didn't take AP for that foreign language, but you could still take a placement test, potentially just jump all those 100, 200 level Spanish classes, go straight into a 300 level just based on what your student has learned. So maybe they didn't take, again, those higher dual enrollment or whatever, but they just absorbed Spanish amazingly well. Perfect. Or maybe you're from a Spanish-speaking family. There are lots of ways these placement tests are going to help you out. Keep in mind with placement tests, they do not usually count as credit. So they're not going to say, oh, you took it, and they're going to give you hours. Sometimes they will, but it's kind of rare. A lot of times they're going to just help you to skip basic level and jump to courses that are going to challenge you, which ideally is what we want anyway, right? I don't want to have to pay hundreds, thousands of dollars for courses that you already knew the information on. That is not the point of going to college. So placement tests are going to be a great help for you. A lot of those are done potentially even through your SAT or ACT scores. They'll just look at them and say, boom, you're good. You don't need to take a basic math. Or they'll be done during orientation weekend, whenever you're at the university right before classes are starting, so that they can get an idea for you. You need to ask the admissions counselor for those universities, do you offer placement tests? When are they? Can we go ahead and get pre-signed up for them so that your student's not going to miss that opportunity? And the last option actually is flat out tests. And these are CLEP tests. So CLEP tests are also available online and in local colleges. So you will find a ton of CLEP exams that you can take, and then you need to also make sure that you have colleges that will accept it. So this is saying, there's over 2,900 colleges that accept it. You can literally search for that right at the top of this page. And this as well, guys, is run, see this little acorn, run by College Board. So the website is clep.collegeboard.org. But you will see immediately a way to search for specific colleges that do accept CLEP. Not going to want to work on this if I'm headed to a university that could care less about it. So CLEP is very inexpensive. Tests are, I think, less than $100 right now. And you sign up for a test and you take it. You study on your own. And then take the test when you feel like you're set. So yeah, $90. I knew it was less than 100. I couldn't remember what it was. So just to give you an idea, and you may not be able to see this if you're watching on a tiny screen, but U.S. government, human growth and development, psychology, macroeconomics, social studies. So we don't necessarily need to do AP macroeconomics. We could just do principles of macroeconomics. We could study that on our own, take the CLEP test at the end of the year, or the end of whenever we're done studying. If my kid is headed to a college that accepts CLEP and they pass the exam, they are going to get credit for that class. How sweet is that for $90? Technically with CLEP too, if you fail the test, you can actually retake it just a short while later, so they can try again, or if they don't pass it with a high enough mark. But CLEP can be a very affordable way. Look at all these classes to knock out a lot of classes long before they got to a university, and at the same time, maybe not having to take the massive amount of time that a normal class would take. Maybe it's already information that you knew, or you're just a really great studier on your own. We all process information differently. So CLEP can be a really great way to do that, even down to languages. So one thing with CLEP is military members, this is free. A lot of military members miss this one. This is an amazing way to get a chunk of your college education with no cost whatsoever. So to not miss that on a fun feature of CLEP tests. So 4 ways there to earn some college credit. Why am I telling you this? This is a huge way to save on college. You're knocking these out before you even get there, but I can guarantee that you are knocking these out at a cheaper price per credit hour. Most universities at this point, per credit hour, up to, if not over, $700 to $1,000 per credit hour. So your kid takes 15 credit hours this semester. That could be $15,000 at $1,000 a credit hour. So if I can take a CLEP test or an AP test, and that gives me one course, that's 3 credit hours. And all you did was take a class. And maybe the AP class at your high school is going to be free. For homeschoolers, our AP classes I'm able to grab online from a number of online options. You can just kind of Google AP homeschool. We do ours through a school called the Potter School, which is online, but there's Pennsylvania homeschoolers. It's not actually in Pennsylvania. We've done a couple through there that just have AP teachers from all over the U.S. teaching classes. Most of those classes cost about $500 for the year. And then we have to pay for the AP exam at the end of the year. We have to find a local high school to go and test at. So in the end, about $500 for the class, about $100 for the test. So $600 total for what, if they pass the test, is a 3 credit hour class. So we've just paid $200 a credit hour instead of what would have been $3,000 for $1,000 a credit hour. So a huge savings. Public schoolers, that is all free for you. A lot of the class is free, obviously, and a lot of the state education departments are paying for those AP exams too. So public schoolers, you've got it made. Homeschoolers, we're going to have some out of pocket on those AP exams. Okay, some other ways to save here. I encourage you to get started saving for college as early as possible. So we've talked about like knocking out college credit, which is the easiest in a sense. And so you have to pass the classes, yes, but it's not the, everyone tells you should start saving for your kid for college right away. And you're thinking, but where is this money coming from? It's great to tell me that I should save, but I have 3 small children and no extra money. So in a sense, planning for some easy college credit through classes is the easier option. We can't just make money appear. But I do encourage you to start putting money aside for college as soon as you can. And I encourage you to do that through all options possible. So open up a 529 plan, get the grandparents to put money in there. Other family members can automatically deposit into your 529 plan. It does not have to be you only depositing money in there. So, if we've got a 2-year-old and the grandparents really want to get him a birthday present, tell them to put money in the 529 plan. Give them something tiny. That 2-year-old doesn't even know what a birthday is. give them a box with a bow on it, and they're going to have a blast with the box. They do not necessarily need a ton of birthday presents, nor do you really want it all filling up your house. Ask them instead to just, hey, here's their 529 information. Just make a deposit into their 529 plan. The earlier that you start, the more money you have. Now, this seems very simple. Yes, obviously, if I start saving money, the more money that I put aside, the more money I have. But really what I mean here is compound interest. So if I put $5,000 in a savings account for my kiddo when they're born, I have got a ton of money by the time they turn 18, instead of putting $5,000 in a savings account when they're 14. It doesn't have any time to grow. So I've given that, hopefully, compound interest, the growth and the chance to double, if not potentially triple, based on stock market. Now, obviously, the past 2 years, that's not going to have been what happened, but the rest of the time, the stock market usually can do pretty well. 529 plans are invested. They're usually invested based on the student's entry into college date. So another idea here, if you've got multiple children, you actually don't have to have multiple 529 plans. So for grandparents, if we are going to encourage grandparents or other family members to donate, you really can just have one 529 plan. This makes it easier for donations to be deposited. We don't have to have a bunch of different account numbers or keep up with that. One 529 plan, and you can actually then separate it later into multiple 529 plans if you want to. Very easy to do. You're going to be technically on the account. It's also going to be in the name of one of your kids, but you are technically like the account holder. So you have that ability further down the road. You also have the ability to actually not have that kid use it. So we have one 529 plan for our 5 girls, and my older 2, they are not the ones that really are going to need it. They have other savings, which we're going to talk about in a second. They also have very good test scores, and their college financial aid packets are great. They're not going to need that 529 money. So I actually already moved this out of one of their one of the older girls' names, and into the name of our youngest child, who is 7, so that all of that money kind of gets reappropriated to a kid who won't go to college for 12 years, can kind of get put back into some higher risk, can have more growth in higher risk in theory, right? But that would be my encouragement there too. I don't need it for these kids. It was originally in the oldest kid's name. I can kind of move it around. I can open up multiple accounts later on if I need to as well, but it's easy to move around and to play with. No one is upset at you if you do. Having one account though makes it very easy for grandparents, for aunts and uncles, anyone to have that information and to be able to make those deposits without having to keep up with lots of different accounts. So 529 is not the only savings avenue that I would recommend for college savings if your kiddos have any sort of job. So once they turn, 14, they decide they want to go and get a job. Before 14, maybe they have a job for a family business. They can still do that, and the family business can technically pay them. But after 14, they can work anywhere that is willing to hire 14 and up. Once they get a job, your kiddos' college savings can then be put not in a 529 plan, but in a Roth IRA. And that is hands down the best option for their college savings. Now, let me put this into perspective for you. I know that your 14-year-old getting a job outside of the house does not want you to take all their money and put it into a college savings account. They went and got a job so that they could make some money. But maybe at this point, grandparents do still want to help out, or you are able to put some extra money aside. All that matters is that whatever your kid earns, let's say that they're, W-2 at the end of the year, or they're 1099, however they earned it, ends up saying that they earned $2,000 this summer from a summer job, or $2,000 over all the jobs they've done, that they are allowed to put as much as they earned into a Roth IRA. It does not literally have to be the dollar that they earned though. So just to explain how that would work, What that means is maybe you don't do 2,000, but you do 500. It could still go into a Roth IRA. It is still less than or equal to what was on the W-2 or the 1099 that they got from their earnings. Why do I want it on a Roth IRA and not in a 529? Two reasons. One, the 529 dollar for dollar is counted in to the FAFSA. I always say it wrong. My husband always comes back and comments and tells me that I said it wrong. The federal financial aid form that you have to fill out to get scholarships. If you have a 529 in that child's name, this would be why it got bumped to a younger child here in the last year. If you have that 529 plan in the child who is applying for financial aid's name, they will be considered as using the full amount of the financial aid or of the 529 plan in that federal financial aid information. If it's in a Roth IRA, it's in a retirement account. And retirement accounts are not considered at all on federal financial aid information. And so now you have given them a college savings account that is basically, in a way, under the table. It's not. You're playing completely by the rules, but it doesn't get factored in or treated against them in qualifying for some federal financial aid, which who doesn't want to qualify for as much federal financial aid as humanly possible, right? So we want to work within the rules, and that Roth IRA is going to let you do that. So as soon as your kiddos have a job, we're not putting money into the 529 plan at this point. We're going to put money into a Roth IRA up to the amount that they earned this year or less. It doesn't matter. You can put in $100 if you wanted to put in $100. That can grow in interest. It's going to be invested in the stock market. Hopefully, that's going to help it to earn better, and can be withdrawn as long as it's been in the account for 5 years. That's important here. So we're not going to go and open this their junior year in high school, but it can be withdrawn and used for college education with no penalties as long as it's used for higher education. So super sweet, easy way to save for college that is not going to end up hurting them on federal financial aid forms, which is important in the end. So a big one there. So hopefully those two avenues. I'm not opposed to the 529 plan. Just be warned that 529 plans can come back and hurt you when you are filling out that federal financial aid information, because it is considered 100% money that you have put aside to pay for college. So don't always want it factored in against that child. And that's why if you don't think that kiddo needs it, or you do think based on financially where you are right now, that they are going to qualify for some federal aid, then let's go ahead and move it out of their names. Let's give it to a younger sibling. Maybe later on down the road, you're not going to qualify for as much federal financial aid, and we're going to let them kind of run without that 529 plan if you think that they can. And my husband is reminding me here that I'm supposed to tell you I am not a financial advisor in terms of anything as a certified accountant, none of that. I'm just someone who is living this and who loves numbers. So as we dive in and hit other topics here, I do want to hit all the fun things that are going to come in the mail. So you end up with all these fun folders and walk you through how to do everything. There's a lot of questions that end up happening with financial aid. So the first big things that are going to hit for your student are asking, what is stackable? What kinds of scholarships, merit offers, actual grant money, federal money, what am I allowed to stack together? And what am I not allowed to stack? And what I mean by that is if they do not allow different awards to stack, then it means that if they give you a unstackable award, that you literally can't use anything else with it. Or it's basically going to absorb all the other awards that you might be coming in with. And that really, really stinks. So finding out from them what is stackable, what is not stackable. Another one in terms of financial aid as well, and I mentioned this when I was kind of giving the intro story of a friend who has a junior and literally hasn't toured any colleges at this point. It's March of their junior year. You should be setting up college tours. Your spring break should be spent on college tours. Your very early summer should be spent on college tours. Why? I know they're juniors and they haven't even entered their senior year. First off, they need to start applying August 1st. When those applications open, you want to have your top university applications in by the beginning of September, never after the middle of September. The reason for that is that a number of colleges work on kind of a rolling admission, and the earlier that you're applying, the better your chances are of getting in the door. And the earlier that you're applying, the better your chances are at being considered for some top scholarships at these schools. So a number of schools are going to have scholarship weekends with scholarship interview weekends. Those are all, we went to some as early as November 1st. We went to some as late as January 15th. You know, it just depends on what the schools are that you were at. But if you didn't apply until October 15th, there's no possible way that you will be invited to a November 1st scholarship weekend. They don't work that fast. No university works that fast. So here you are finally applying by October 15th, but you don't even realize that you've really already missed the first round of money that went out from that university. So no pressure, but you really don't want to be finishing applications. You can apply as late as March 1st to most universities. There's no money left if you're applying that late. And I shouldn't say no. There's very little money left if you're applying that late to a university. They've already given out a lot of their top scholarship money that is not just merit money. So there's always this basic amount that a university is going to give you based on your test scores, based on your GPA. I didn't have to interview for that money, really. It just needed to show up with the right numbers. If you've got the right numbers, you have that basic merit money. And in all honesty, that's like a coupon. They tell you that the university costs this much, but then they automatically reduce the price for you. And they're doing that really for every single person. So the full ticket price at most universities is never the full ticket price. That number is going to come off whether you applied on August 1st or March 1st. But beyond that, you've got some grants, you've got some scholarships that are based on what other past donors have given to the university. Those are going to be interview based. Those are going to be selection committees, and those have a timetable that is well before March 1st. So if I'm waiting until my kid is a senior to start touring universities in the fall, they're missing those weekends. So do not wait. You want to have a plan. I would encourage them to have a plan, to be working on those college applications to where they really could submit them in the first few weeks of August. It's going to be a very big help in getting invited to those weekends. The more scholarship weekends that you sit at, the more opportunities you have to win them. If you're not there, you can't win. Now, I'm pretty sure that's like a slogan of the lottery as well, right? If you don't play, you can't win. I don't play, not going to win on the lottery, but I am going to try to make sure that my kiddos are not going to miss any opportunities to get extra money to pay for college. So with a lot of the colleges, they're going to pass out lots of these family planning guides so that you've got a plan as to what it is that you're looking at. A lot of them will detail out what those scholarships look like. They will never tell you how many they offer. So here's our, merit-based scholars. It's just based on your numbers. And then as you go through, you'll start to see our other fellows programs and whatnot. And you think, oh, full tuition, room and board, this is awesome. Your kids are going to get there and find out that it goes to like 4 students in the 500 students that are present. So keep that in mind. But they will map it all out for you. They'll map out what they're looking for. so that you have some idea going in what's available for that university. So a lot of this is on the university's websites as well. Another really great source, I've mentioned College Board for AP and for CLEP, but College Board actually has a really great online college search site. So I would encourage you to use the College Board college search, and to just show you that one really quick. When you head here, you can do all sorts of things on College Board, but you can actually search specifically for college. And with this particular page, what it's going to pull back on that university, let's do mine here. I had someone tell me, isn't that a party school recently? I'm like, no, your kid should go to Florida State. This is where I went, but I'm immediately going to know what is this, what's the overview here? This is the big numbers. 83% of the folks that go to Florida State end up graduating. That's a great number. The average per year that most students are paying to go there after all aid, $13,000. So for me as a parent, maybe I'm like, my kid's amazing. We're not going to end up paying it. Possibly you're going to end up paying a lot less, but it is giving you an idea of what the flat average for the university is. This is going to include the folks that are like, whatever, I'll just write you a check. There aren't a lot of those. It is also going to factor in the kids who got full rides. So it's still a pretty solid number, so that you know in the beginning, is this a school that should be on our list? Can we even afford it? If we didn't get a full ride, are we even going to be able to consider it? So you're going to have ideas. You're going to know when their applications are. But I can sit here and look at a lot of other things. I can look at retention rate, AP credits. Do they accept them? Do they not accept? A lot on College Board site for individual universities. So love Florida State. It's a fun one to look for. Another one that my kiddos are looking at going to. Can show you that one too. So Covenant, we've got all the information. Average per year after aid, $25,000. Graduation rate 65%. So some of this, that's much lower than Florida State's number. You have to take into account. Could be really that it is a lot of kids are going to move. They've got programs where you start at Covenant and you finish at another university. So that does end up factoring in. You just need to ask your school, what does this mean? Why are those things? Why is that number there? And you can get an idea. What do they offer? What's their retention rate, faculty to student ratio, which is great. AP, you get the idea. So use these. This is their big future, but you get there straight from the College Board site to be able to research what those universities are, research what that average cost is. Hopefully your kids can beat it. And so for Covenant, that average cost again was like $25,000, I think. Our kids beat it a little bit, but still the financial aid packet is still a chunk. And it's something where as a parent, you're like, guys, I don't know if we can afford that. And you need to have those chats before you get into it, before hearts get set on things that don't exist and can't be afforded. I will tell you, small universities, you should not discredit them. So small universities do have a good chunk of money to give. And we have found that to be true on a few different universities that have been applied to or friends have ended up at, where in the end you do end up paying less out of pocket than the large public universities in the state. So they've got larger endowments, they've got larger grants and scholarships that they're willing to give. It's not something to just assume that you can't afford it. You should look at that. What is the average aid? How much aid is coming out on those schools and get an idea. And then maybe apply and just say, hey, if we can get it to equal what the public school down the road has given us, then we would consider it and leave it on the table as an option for your kiddos. But you could be very pleasantly surprised in that final number from those smaller universities. So in South Carolina, for us, that's been Anderson. We've had good family friends that have ended up at Wofford. Both colleges, the ticket price is $45, Wofford is $60 a year, but coming down to less than $10 after all financial aid, you're not going to attend Clemson or even South Carolina for less than $10,000 a year right now. College is incredibly expensive. A lot of that is room and board. So I would go in with a plan for, hey, we can afford your freshman year, but after your freshman year, we're going to look at moving off campus. We're going to look at sharing apartments, all the ways that we can bring down those costs. If you want them to have that dorm experience for 1 year, you're going to need to handle that price for that first year, though, because room and board in most of these universities is between $10,000 and $15,000 a year to live on campus, and that's an incredible chunk of change. Very rare to have tuition money given to you that you are allowed to use on room and board as well, so keep that in mind. Most of the scholarships, most of the financial aid that you're given will be for tuition and fees only. So in the end, you're still handling that room and board cost, and that does add up a lot. That is another reason on the beginning of this chat, and as we covered AP and dual enrollment, not only are they doing those pre-college credit classes before college at a cheaper rate, but they're doing them while they live in your house. Under your room and board, which is not $10,000 to $15,000 a year. So it is sizable and definitely worth considering to see what kind of credit we can knock out. Another one too, if college is really just not doable financially at the 4-year public university, or definitely not private if you're even concerned about the public cost, is to still tell them, there's nothing wrong with doing a 2-year tech school, getting the AA degree, and then moving and transferring into another university. When you transfer in, you are not necessarily going to be factored into the running for some of the fellows and special awards that are there, but you will still be given the merit discounts that are still there. So you're still going to not have to pay that ticket price. I know that's always a concern for folks is, well, if I transfer in, I'm having to pay, I missed all the freshman discounts. You missed some of the freshman discounts, but you didn't miss all of them. And transferring in, you're not going to pay that freshman room and board. You're probably going to immediately, as a junior, live off campus. So you are going to have decreased costs automatically, as well as still getting those merit discounts and possibly even some transfer grants and other options that you didn't even see in the literature, because most literature is published for freshmen. But the numbers are still there, and there is still aid for transfer students as well. So don't discredit that 2-year option to knock out courses that are just general education courses. You can learn English at a tech school. You can learn English at the 4-year university. It's still going to count, and it's going to be much, much cheaper at your local tech school than it is at your university. So it's a great way to go. There's one other way that I wanted to mention before we run out of time. And y'all, everyone's been kind of quiet. I totally did this because I knew it was a topic folks wanted, but that's okay. And hopefully folks will watch after the fact. We've at least hit a lot of information tonight. But one that I did want to touch on before we move on is public service discounts. So there is a lot of savings for public service college opportunities. And this is basically like public service loan forgiveness. It's part of you can find this on the government's website, and I'll put this link in on the comments for you guys. There's a lot of opportunities to qualify for public service loan forgiveness. And the particular page that I'm sending you to says the waiver ended October 31st. The waiver was it still exists. The program still exists. So kind of keep reading. Just know that a piece of it has ended. This also exists from a state level. So I'm just giving you one example here, but going and hunting from this from a state level, anytime that I end up working for the federal government or the state government in a particular job, and it's particular here, it's not any job, you can end up with some opportunities to forgive your loans. So we have a family friend who is a lawyer. He graduated from the Citadel in South Carolina and then went on to law school, working for the South Carolina government is counting to pay for his law degree. So this isn't just undergrad either. If you are going to consider a expensive degree, looking into unique ways to pay that off could really help out. So teachers, this exists in a lot of areas. If you're wanting to become a teacher, that you can say, yes, I will become a teacher and I promise to serve in the public school system in this state for X number of years, and boom, you're going to either A, get a discount off the top, or you're going to get automatic loan forgiveness as soon as you graduate and you start working for them. So these are things to consider. Definitely if you've got kiddos that want to be teachers and you are looking at a sticker price of $15,000 a year, these universities, by the way, they will send you, I asked my kiddos to bring me one of their financial aid forms, but they very quickly couldn't find them as they were heading upstairs. But with those financial aid forms, they're going to say your total out of pocket is $19,000. You're like, wait a second. Nowhere on here does it say where you think I'm coming up with $19,000. They know that A, you're either magic and you're just going to find that somewhere. Not sure who that is. Or B, you're going to go and take out a private loan on that money. $19,000 is a lot of money for 1 year of college. So you need to take a step back and say, what are some other options here? And then look at, like, what does my kid want to do? Is there an opportunity that they could find a public service job in what they're wanting to do, or a public service job that's kind of in what they want to do, and then later they could move into what they actually want to do? I can guarantee you that our family friend does not want to work as a lawyer for the state of South Carolina for the rest of his life. He's told us that. So I know that that is not his plan. He is literally staying there until the day that he has to then make his loans go away. But it's a win for the state as well. You have a top level lawyer working for the state, helping the state do things, and all they have to do is slowly pay back that lawyer's loan, because they are not paying him what he would make in the private sector. And that's the downside for your kiddos. If they're going to take that public service loan option, is yes, they're not going to make the same income that they would have made in the private sector, but they are going to still make a chunk. So some other areas here to consider. The defense sector also does this. If you've got kiddos that are interested in STEM, there are defense sector options for STEM that is going to end up paying for those, whatever the job was, as they take and end up with really great careers in the end, all based on what they decided to study. So this is the Department of Defense STEM careers, and you're off like, hey, I'm a biology major. Maybe there actually is some ways that you could do this as a biology major, pay off what you've done in school, and don't have to do it forever, but you paid off what your schooling costs by taking advantage of some of those programs. A lot in the STEM fields. My girls have always said, like, why is it that parents are pushing their kids into STEM fields? Like, well, because art majors end up having to get another job to pay the bills. Until they become an amazing artist, there aren't a lot of jobs that are just going to pay you to paint really pretty pictures. Now, you can work in art, you can do graphic arts, you can do advertising, you can do a lot of things, but it may not be the art that you love. You're gonna have to have the art that pays the bills before you have the art that you love, and this is just a reality, guys. So if your kids are on the fence and they don't know where they're going, looking into some of these options that in the end will pay for those majors, the biology majors, the chemistry majors through the Department of Defense. No, that may not be their dream job, but it paid the loan back in the end. And then when that loan requirement is up, you move on and you get to do what you wanted to do, or you go back to school. You get the ideas. But those are really great programs to look into. And yes, Elena, I love the advice. She says the best advice her kids got when entering college was keep your scholarship. Yes, by far. That is a huge one. So if all that your kids need to do is earn a certain grade point average to get a scholarship, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if they get to college and they mess around, college is gone. If the money goes away, the fact that you get to stay here is also going to go away. That's an important fact for our kids to realize. keep your scholarship is huge advice for sure. And Karen, yes, so Karen chimed in too. There's a lot of other advantages to going into a 2-year school and then transferring, one being that you are now older and wiser as well. I highly agree with that one. I'm not sending an 18-year-old to live away from home. I'm now sending a 20-year-old to live away from home. And they have definitely done a lot of growing up in those extra 2 years at a local tech school and save money. So it's win-win for all parties that decide to do the 2-year and transfer to the 4-year. Definitely one to not forget. So let's talk about another source for money, and that is actually going not to tech school, not to college, but actually straight into the workforce. And this exists right now. I'm not sure that this will exist forever. It's really going to be based on where the economy is. But jobs right now are so tight, and people need bodies in chairs working, that there are actually a number of big employers, Google being one of them, that have been saying, you know what, just apply, show us what you've done. Maybe you've got a kiddo who loves to code, who is 100% into everything computers. They could go to college and get a degree right now, but Google's saying, you know what, apply. We'll teach you what you need to know, and then we will send you back to school. We'll teach you what you need to know. You'll work and you can earn credits, on the side even. So there's a number of jobs that will gladly train you, start to pay you now, and then either A, give you discounts to go to the university, or just outright give you cash. You get this much of a stipend every single year, and they are paying for whatever courses you use that stipend on. That is big in the tech industry right now. So if you've got a kiddo interested in tech and no money to get them where they need to go, at least look into that to see, are there some jobs that are going to pay after the fact? Or maybe we start by getting a couple certifications so we don't worry about a full-on degree, but we say, you know what, we're going to go and we're going to get you a certification in a security certification, or we're going to get you your first level of Cisco certification for networking. Then you're going to have to work on that. You're going to have to study for those tests. They're not super easy, but once you get those levels, you can get a job. That job's then going to give you that tuition assistance to help pay for the actual college degree that you're hoping to achieve, but no debt in doing that. So that's what you've got to overcome, is if I end up giving my kids let's take on this $100,000 loan, they have to have some way to think about paying that off in the end, because you're hearing in the news about loan forgiveness. That's federal loan forgiveness in terms of how much your kid is leaving with on average. If you qualified for federal loan, you might be talking about $10,000 at the end of your college. You're not talking about a massive amount of money in federal loans. They have a limit per kid. So all those not federal loans, those public loans that you're getting, those are not being forgiven. So don't just turn around and think, oh yeah, we'll get $100,000 in loans, and hopefully, if the Supreme Court passes it, you're not going to have to pay any of those off. No, not the same thing. So do not want to just jump into loans that they're going to have to pay back for the next 30 or more years. Lynn asked, do I have any thoughts on getting an RN versus a BSN? So being a BSN nurse, Lynn, I would tell you getting that bachelor's degree, I would highly recommend it. If money is not there, get the RN for now. Many, many hospitals will pay for you or give you a significant chunk of tuition assistance to change your degree from an RN to a BSN. So you could take the first step yourself, get the RN, and then let them help you take the next step to the BSN. If you think that you're not going to take that next step, if you think, I'm going to get busy, life's going to get busy, your kids are going to get married, maybe you go ahead and take the leap now. The difference, it can be significant in pay, because the BSN nurse is going to be able to move up and become the charge nurse, to become the nurse manager on the floor, and the pay is going to increase significantly with those opportunities that are not going to be there for the RN as quickly They will eventually be there for just the RN based on experience in that unit, but the BSN nurse is coming in automatically with the bachelor's degree, automatically going to jump ahead of some of those just RNs when it comes to career advancement. So that's really what you're looking at between the difference on the two. Does one know how to be a better nurse than another? I don't know that I could say that, because I will tell you, as a BSN nurse graduating from one of the top nursing programs in the Southeast, I still graduated and didn't know what in the world I was doing. I had a lot of book knowledge, but not a lot of hands-on experience. So the hospital that I worked for immediately took all of us new grads and actually put us back into a classroom and taught us what they felt we needed to know. So it wasn't even a, you're done with school, yay. They realized we didn't know everything we needed to know. And we were new grads from all over the country, even coming in to work at a big hospital in Savannah. So either way, you're still gonna have stuff you need. It's about career advancement, really, on that RN versus that BSN. Okay, that was a long answer for you, but you walked right into my wheelhouse, so I can totally answer that one. We hit a lot of things tonight. I hope that in the end, for folks that watch this after the fact, that this was helpful to you guys. We did put links in the comments. YouTube folks, I will try hard to go in and put those links in after the video, because I know the comments don't hang for YouTube. But Facebook folks, they will be there. They will be in those comments, so scroll through if you're looking for those. A lot of what we mentioned, though, heading to College Board for AP, for CLEP, for College Search. Head to Southern Savers. There's a whole post that we've done on the 4 ways to earn early college credit. And that is a link that I put in to the comments. So hopefully you'll catch that one, and links to all of those 4 ways to earn college credit that we talked about. So make sure you're hitting that one. And I will also stick in one that I didn't give you guys earlier, but that is tips and tricks for saving on college textbooks. So that's a whole nother side of college that, I'm just trying to get you there at this point. But obviously once you're there, you got to figure out how to save on it. So one more post for you as well, and we'll stick that one in the comments now. So thanks for those of you who watched tonight, and for anyone that watches after the fact. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask away. I am, while I may not have kids in college, we are there. Decisions need to be made in the next week or two. We are making our pros and cons lists. We are making spreadsheets and deciding which is affordable. And in the end, hopefully we'll get there. I will tell you, for parents, in terms of planning, starting as early as you can is definitely your best option. Just like I showed you in our spreadsheet that I shared, that Google Doc that I shared in the comments earlier too. We started as early as 7th grade, so starting as early as you can to kind of map out how you think you're going to get high school done with the most number of credits is a great way to do it. Starting early in terms of savings is also a really great way to do it too. So hopefully this helps you guys. If you've got other tips too, feel free to leave those in the comments. But I will gladly answer any follow-up questions by email, jenny@southernsavers.com, or by Facebook message. So ask away, and I will see what I can do to help out. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your night, and I will be back on tomorrow at 1 o'clock on Tuesday. That is tomorrow, to cover all of the top deals running in CVS and Walgreens this week. So I will